one, and the topic that I've chosen to dedicate my time into researching is green energy. Now, I'm going to talk to you today about a matter that has somewhat wiggled its way out of being that of hindered importance into one that requires an absolute sense of urgency. This matter is, in fact, global warming. If all of you can fully conceptualize this phenomenon, it is the unnatural heating of the Earth's atmosphere, brought about by an overabundance of greenhouse gases present in it. The most abundant of those greenhouse gases is sadly a consequence of a process that we use on a day-to-day basis to produce energy, and that is the combustion of fossil fuels. Now, before I continue, I would like to enlighten you on the reason why I chose this topic to dedicate my time into researching. Firstly, I have certain aspirations. I hope one day to be a part of or create a company that incorporates green technologies with consumer electronics, making green technologies more available to a greater population, and also making the field more marketable, encouraging others to come and research to increase the rate of development and advancement in green technologies. And I'd like to do it in this country, which brings me to my second point. I believe Trinidad and Tobago, though quite small a country, can make a significant change in energy usage globally. You may be wondering, we're just a small country, but we do only account for 1% of carbon dioxide produced globally. But the UN's Department of Energy does not think that way. They rank us second for carbon emissions per metric ton per square unit, which simply means for a country of our size, we produce a significant amount of carbon dioxide, contributing a lot to the environment. And if we can show the world that we are ready and willing to change, we may encourage others to help us in our journey and inspire others to follow in our footsteps. Now, I encountered some difficulties and issues while compiling my information, which I'm going to present to you soon. Firstly, I have to admit, researching into green energy has proven to be quite biased, always presenting us with problems, saying fossil fuels are bad, use the alternative, never offering solutions, and never giving us substantial reasons on why it is dangerous. I overcame this challenge by interviewing a professional in the field, a Michael Sean, who is the risk manager and value assurance leader of Fluor Daniel, a company that works with other companies to lower their carbon dioxide emissions. He has a bachelor's in occupational risk and safety, a master's in risk management, and is an active environmental safety practitioner. Another issue I face is I don't have internet access at home, and the only access I had to the internet was the library. Can you imagine trying to validate sources, not compiling information yet, but validating sources when it takes 10 minutes just for a web page to load up? This challenge needs to be overcome with time. That was the only way to fix that problem. Now, I'd like to get into research I've compiled. Let's start off with my other primary source, the questionnaires. It was distributed to 14 schools and adults in my area, distributed among different age groups, lower school, upper school, and adults. It was not only to find out what people knew about green energy, but what form they saw it more comfortable as. And I came up with 3 most common results. Solar, wind, and nuclear. Put an asterisk next to this. We'll cross this bridge when we get there. Let's start off with solar. This is probably the most popular form of energy anywhere in the world. What it does is it consists of a solar panel that utilizes the photovoltaic effect, transforming solar energy into electrical energy. It does this by hooking it up to a power grid and connecting it to what you want to light up or power. But the problem with solar is, firstly, it is not exactly cheap. It costs probably thousands of dollars just for one unit, and one unit cannot provide a substantial amount of energy anywhere. It can only power at most one light bulb. On a large scale use, it's very discredited in this country. Let me show you. This here is the polytron diagram of Trinidad and Tobago. But let's say this is Port of Spain. If we have to use solar to power Port of Spain, we will require this much space, which is equivalent to the whole of Caroni. That is not an efficient way to use energy. So solar cannot be used on a large scale. But small scale use, meaning home use, is accredited greatly. Imagine this. Consider this, all the houses in Trinidad and Tobago. If these amount of houses powered by solar, it will make a significant change in the carbon usage we use, because our electricity is powered by power companies. They use fossil fuels to power their electricity, which they send to us. If we use solar, we are less dependent on them. We save a lot of money and we reduce our carbon emissions. Now, that's the end of solar. Let's go to wind. Wind, on the other hand, is quite similar to solar, meaning that large-scale use cannot be used. Small-scale use, on the other hand, also cannot be used. One wind turbine probably takes up as much space as your house will. And a lot of us don't have a lot of large houses, right? One wind turbine can generate enough energy to power anything. That is why they're used in large amounts. That is one reason. Another reason is a lot of people don't further their education in the field of wind energy. That means we'll have to import personnel from other countries, which will cost us a lot of expenses. It's not only to maintain the solar farms, but to pay them at wages they prefer. That is another reason why wind cannot be used in this country. Now let's get to this one. This is probably my most favorite source of energy, nuclear. A lot of you may think that nuclear produces a substantial amount of energy and is very clean for the environment. I'd like to correct that error. Nuclear, according to the UN's the UN Energy Department, is no longer an alternative resource. Greenpeace, which was one of the companies that I found, one of the organizations that I found while searching through the internet for secondary resources that were very accredited. They are present in 60 countries and have over 2.3 million followers from government agencies. They also describe the use of nuclear. They believe that it provides an unnecessary risk to the environment and it proliferates the use of nuclear weapons. It is inhumane. That is their stand on nuclear. Another organization, the CTBTO, the Commission of Nuclear Test Ban Treaty, Commission of Nuclear Test Ban Treaty, they launched a treaty in September 8, 1991. This treaty was to ban nuclear test sites in any country that signs it. They have over 183 countries members of this treaty and over 161 countries ratified. They monitor this by using 273 monitoring stations worldwide, 18 are planned and 20 are under consideration. As their name suggests, it's pretty much self-explanatory that they are also against nuclear. Another thing that I want to point out is Germany. They are a power giant in green technologies. Over half their power grid is run on green technologies. They, as of last year, 2011, September 11, initiated a phase-out program which phases out nuclear facilities. On initiation of this, they eliminated 8 of their 18 nuclear test sites, and many more are being considered to be eliminated from Germany. Right? These 3 very accredited places and organizations would discredit the use of nuclear. Why not Trinidad and Tobago? If you all may be thinking that these countries are against development, they have proof which solidifies their statements. September 29th, 1957, in the Kitiam nuclear complex in Chelyabinsk, Russia. A nuclear accident occurred due to an explosion in one of the nuclear power plants. When this happened, 2 people died in the nuclear accident. You may be thinking that this is insignificant, but over 2,000 people were evacuated and over 1,000 of them were diagnosed with cancer. There's something called the INES, the International Nuclear Event Scale, a 7-point system. It ranked this accident as 6. That is a very highly radioactive area now. No one can access it to this date. Next accident, March 29th, 1965, 5 Mile Island, Pennsylvania, USA. Another explosion at a nuclear power plant due to untrained personnel and faulty equipment. No one died in that accident, no one was diagnosed with cancer, but to this date, radioactivity can be detected in the water surrounding the nuclear power plant. Third accident. This is probably the most popular of all the nuclear accidents. The first one to rank 7 on the INES scale. Chernobyl, 1986. Due to, again, faulty equipment and untrained personnel, a nuclear meltdown occurred. 50,000 people used to live in that area. Now it dwindles at nearly 500. Most of them are elderly. And if you may be thinking, that was back then, we have technology now to control nuclear, I'd like to name a recent event. Japan, 2011, April 11th. Due to an earthquake magnitude 9.0 on the Richter scale, power was shut down in the nuclear power plant. After 8 hours, a nuclear meltdown occurred. Initially, that was ranked on the INES scale as 5, but now it is ranked 7 on the INES scale, which means that that facility is going to be very radioactive for the next 1,000 years, making it unusable for land use. And due to that nuclear explosion, the water surrounding the nuclear power plant and the land surrounding the nuclear power plant have been tested with radioactivity. This, I'd like to note, happened due to a natural disaster, an event that we cannot control. If we cannot control that, and that affects nuclear power plants, which in turn affects the radioactivity of the surrounding area, it in fact provides an unnecessary risk. And I would like to compare this to Trinidad's geographical location. We are prone to a lot of natural disasters, events we cannot control. If we have to put a nuclear power plant in Trinidad, it will not be the surrounding area alone. It will be the whole of Trinidad and surrounding countries, because we are a very small country. Now, I compiled this information from BBC World News. The website is bbc.co.uk, last updated January 14th, 2014. Now, I'd like to introduce one more green technology into my research. CNG, compressed natural gas. Some of you might be familiar with this. It is still fossil fuels, just compressed into a gaseous state, which is colorless, odorless, and safe for the environment. According to the environmental report in 2011, Trinidad and Tobago are trying to get cars and buses to run on CNG by 2016. That is 2 years from now. Solar was also introduced into their plan. And that was all the research that I compiled. I'd like to end with a quote from Michael Sean. We are a small country, young in the big scheme of things compared to other countries. We are not at a disadvantage, but rather we can piggyback off of what they learned. And basically, we need to do 3 things. where we are, where we want to be, and the steps we need to take. To get there. I believe green technology is those steps. That concludes my presentation.